Hello there. For this last You Talking to Me of the year, we will focus on the big investment plan proposed by the European Commission's President Jean-Claude Juncker. The 315 billion euros will be on the agenda of the EU summit in Brussels this week. And as the letter sent to Santa Claus, European members are proposing their projects to be financed, and some of them are really interested, such as for Eastern countries, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary and Czech Republic, and also Germany is interested. So to discuss about this, I've got the pleasure to welcome two of my guests, two members of the European Parliament, Mr. Sven Giegold, you German member from the Greens Group. Hello and welcome. And Mr. Miguel Boni, you Polish member from the Centre-Right Group.
Hello.
Hello. So to start the show, I will ask you to shortly react on what the Vice President, Mr. Timmermans, said last week during our Euranet Plus debate, a big crunch with our Euranet Plus partners. So I would like to listen to him.
Until now, when we talk about investment, we always talk about, infrastructural projects, about structural funds, about the EU putting money somewhere and then the member state matching the funds. Now we're looking at the markets. We're looking at what's the problem. Why aren't
but
private
the markets
companies
want to
investing?
see reform first and then they'll put the money in.
Well, don't get me wrong. This plan will fail if member states don't reform. So if member states believe this plan is an alternative to reform, they're completely wrong, because the markets will punish them. It's not the states that will punish them.
So, Mr. Boni, do you think EU member states are misunderstanding the fund?
No. When we are discussing about this fund in Poland, we understand that on the one hand we have some needs and requirements related to our economic position, and we should continue our reforms on the one hand, and on the other we should implement some projects related to structural funds. But this is the additional possibility, this new fund, and I think that we need investment in Europe and we need better cooperation between European institutions, member states and market, and we should involve market for much more investment for the future.
And you, Mr. Giegold, because do you believe in this plan? Because Mr. Timmermans was quite confident last week.
Well, I believe in God and not in a plan, so first of all, But this plan is, of course, a turning point, because since the financial crisis, Europe was speaking too much about one-sided austerity plans and too little about investment. Now investment is tackled, but the real issue is who will really bear the cost and who will get the returns. So there's nothing wrong to establish such a fund. We agree with this, but the big question is, which projects, will they be sustainable, yes or no? Will there be really future jobs, or will they be backward-looking, such as new nuclear power stations, dirty energy and the like? And second, if the public takes a risk for a market investment, then it has to get a fair return, and we may not put the risk with the public and the good return with the private investors. So there we have to be careful in the design.
But in addition, if I can add something, I think that the success of this fund depends also on capacity of people who will manage this fund, because this is a very key problem. If we want to have return...
And who will manage this fund?
I think that it should be a professional team, yes, and I think it will be very important to give to those kind of people some possibilities for good requirements, and also to have a push to projects, to member states, because we need good projects. This is not money for everything. This is money for some key for future development areas.
We will come back when you say we need some money for good things. So the four Eastern European countries, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, they really want to use this money to set up energy networks. So should they have the priority on these projects, Mr. Giegold?
Well, first of all, there were so many projects now proposed. So there are 300 billion, a bit more, and it was more than 1 trillion which was proposed. So all the projects, now to say these are the most important ones, this would not be good politics if two members here would say we can judge the 1,000, 2,000 projects. This has to be done thoroughly, the best ones have to be picked. But the integration of the energy system and gas and power is very important. We need more independence for Europe on the basis of sustainable energy. We don't need networks for dirty energy, but for a cheaper access to sustainable energy, this is a priority for Europe.
So as Mr. Giegold said, there are lots of projects, so 2,000 projects on the table, more than 300 billion euros, so it's 4 times more than the investment plan of Mr. Juncker. So how is the Commission going to select? The Commission needs to select them. So how can we be sure this selection will be fairly distributed?
My opinion is that we should use professional people for selecting process, because it should be out of politics, out of impact from political groups and member states, because with of course some reference points which are important for geography of Europe. And I fully agree that we need energy projects, because we need energy union in Europe, and we need some new interconnectors, and we need security, etc., also in relations between European Union countries and Ukraine, for example, and Moldova in the future. But on the other hand, I fully agree that it also should change the model of energy. So we need much more modernization in some countries, as in Poland, for example. I think that we need, we are using coal, and we need new forms of using coal, because also we need environmental goals for implementation.
So focusing on energy, on an energy union, but are there other projects who will be really needed in Europe?
Well, I think it's quite clear that we also need the digital market. So the future of the European economy also depends on fast internet everywhere. We cannot afford that only some urban centers have access to fast internet. If we want to keep employment all over Europe, we have to ensure that there's fast internet. A second point is we are depending not only on oil and gas from countries we do not like most, we also depend on scarce resources, and we have to make Europe energy and resource efficient. And for that we need, for instance, train mobility networks, which make possible that you can have sustainable transport in Europe. So
as
these
Germany
are also
wants, Germany wants that.
Germany wants some of that, but also, unfortunately, I have to say, without consulting the parliaments, the German government has proposed new airports, and they have also proposed no new motorways, which an aging society doesn't really need. We need more future investment, but not new roads. So Germany
so how the
has
Commission will select then?
I hope that the Commission takes the common environmental agreements in Europe very seriously. We want to reduce CO2 emissions, so the proposals of the projects have to be in line with the climate policies we have agreed. So they have to check whether the projects are economically, environmentally sustainable, and they have enough to choose, and I hope that they will be strict on economics, but also on the question of greening the whole project.
But the risk could be also that the member states are just there to get their check, no?
Oh, you know, on the one hand, I think that we are waiting for starting this fund and prepare our project for implementation. On the other hand, I think that we need not only those areas as infrastructure. I agree that in the digital area we need much more accessible network for people, especially from rural areas. But also we need some new kind of services in digital area, because this is for well-being, this is for European economy development. So I think that we should consider how to use this fund, thinking about the model of financing with high risk and also with a high level of return, how we should use this fund also for much more innovative projects, because on the one hand we need infrastructural development, and also I think that railway are very important because this is the clean model of transportation, but on the other hand we should be much more open for those countries who are not interested in infrastructural solutions, but they probably could be interested in some new innovative areas. And also we should remember about, because Czech means that I should analyze and consider what kind of my contribution will be.
Okay, yeah. So, and let's focus now on the national contribution. I mean, member states could also propose some money for this plan. And for example, Italy, if the country wants to give €1 billion, is this going to be a debt for them, Mr. Giegold?
Well, first of all, I have to say that the countries which have fiscal space, such as Germany, but also others, they should give in more money into the fund. So, of course, this depends that the fund is truly sustainable and economically wise. We have to see the design. I agree, this should not be politicized. The politicians should set the framework of the rules, but then it should be experts to decide. But having said that, I think Germany should put in more money into the fund, because so far there is no fresh money. It's all based on guarantees, and that is really poor.
And you also believe that Germany should put the most of the money in it?
You know, it doesn't mean most. It doesn't mean most. So, he said proportionally, yes?
Yes.
And I think that it's okay.
Yeah.
Poland is ready. Earlier we discussed our project prepared by Polish Ministry of Finance, Mateusz Szczurek, and this project was close to this model proposed by Commission, and I think that we should consider what kind of money when, yes, and also how to adjust to our expectations on the project.
Thank you. So we will have time for that, because nothing is set up, and we may have to wait until the middle of June 2015.
But professional people who will manage this money, I think it is a crucial point, and experts rather than politicians.
So just a last word before we wrap up this program. In 30 seconds, what do you expect from this plan?
I hope that Europe will see that Europe can not only put constraint and austerity on people, but also help to generate future jobs.
And you, Mr. Bonny?
I think that it will activate our ideas on investments, because investments are crucial for future development.
Thank you, Misters, for coming, and I wish you already my best wishes for this end of the year. And thank you for following us, and see you next year. Bye.